Hello boyos, RichboyJhae here back with another video, and this is going to be another episode of Your Questions Answered. If you're not familiar with it, Your Questions Answered is a Q&A series that I do here on this channel, so if you want to see your questions answered in one of these videos, put it in the comment section, make sure it is Lego, Star Wars, or Lego Stars related, and then check back next week to see if you made the cut. Go to the first question by William Colgren. He says, would you like to see a UCS Cantina or Mazdas Castle or something like that's big, like the new Cloud City with many minifigs? By the way, please do some merchandise. It would be awesome. To answer the second part first, yes, merchandise is coming very soon. Actually, I'm basically making efforts to move pretty quickly on that. Something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I think it's just time to actually finally put that into action. But in regards to the first part of your question, as for a UCS Mazdas Castle or Cantina, I would just love either of those things. It seems like the way they went with the Cloud City would, I guess, imply that it would probably not be a UCS set, but instead a Master Builder Series set. But I'm honestly not even sure if they'll ever even use that moniker again. It wasn't even on the box, but I digress. But yeah, I would love to see really either of those sets. I think the Cantina is the one that will really do well. It's just populated with so many unique looking aliens, so that would give them an opportunity to really load that thing out with figures, and I think that it would actually sell quite well. So like a UCS or Master Builder Series Cantina is actually pretty high on my list. As for Mazda's Castle, really the same thing applies. Obviously it's not nearly as iconic as the Cantina, but I still think there are some really cool things you can do with it. I think that Mazda's Castle is maybe a bit more visually interesting on the outside, so you could probably have just a more complicated build with that. But then also, there are a lot of figures in Mazda's Castle that we haven't gotten so far. The two that really stick out to me are Captain Atheno and Quiggled, the two guys that Finn actually tries to go work for in the film. I think Captain Atheno would make an incredible looking minifig, and I think Quiggled would as well. So I would love to get those two figures in any capacity, and a UCS Mazda's Castle seems to lend itself pretty well to that. So I love both of those ideas. Thank you for that question. Next question comes from Great Jedi. He says, keep up the good work. Do you think LEGO will ever release any Resistance capital ships or larger Rebel capital ships? Honestly, probably not. The largest Rebel capital ship we've gotten, I guess, would be the Rebel Blockade Runner, and that's pretty iconic. It's the first ship we ever see in Star Wars. Outside of that, LEGO doesn't really seem interested in touching the other larger Rebel capital ships. I think Home One would probably be the biggest candidate for that, but I'm just not sure I can see that happening. Us hardcore Star Wars fans know what Home One is, and I think a lot of us often like the design. I just don't see the mass appeal that something like that might have. And also, we don't really see too much of the interior outside of the bridge, so that would kind of minimize maybe some of the play features they could incorporate in something like that, which, I mean, isn't that big of an issue, because if you think about the Star Destroyer, for example, we don't really see too much of the interior of that outside of the bridge, but I feel Star Destroyers are certainly more iconic than the Home One. They have more widespread appeal, so as for that, probably not. As for Resistance capital ships, I'd also probably say no to that as well. I think that the Raddus is probably the most prominent one we've seen so far, and it actually occupies a pretty significant part of The Last Jedi, but once again, it's still, I just don't know the broad appeal that something like that might have, as opposed to some of the more recognizable and iconic ships. So, I mean, I think they would make cool looking sets, they'd make cool looking display models. I just don't see that as being something that LEGO feels they could market enough to make it worthwhile for them to make that set. But fortunately, we have wonderful MOC builders in the community, so if you're looking for something like that, I'm sure you can find dozens and dozens of models of nice large-scale Rebel or maybe even Resistance capital ships down the line. Next question comes from Creator278. He says, this has probably been answered here before, but what's your biggest MOC you've ever tackled, tried to finish, or did finish, and what's Brick World like I've never been? So I like kind of answering questions like this. A lot of you will hear this and you'll know exactly what the answer is, but there are obviously new people coming to the channel all the time, and they're not going to know about my history immediately, so I'd like to kind of refresh them. But so far I've done basically 3 large-scale MOCs. The first one was Scarif, the second one was Crate, The most recent one was Vardos that was completed, and I'm currently working on Starkiller Base. Out of those large-scale MOCs, Crate was easily the biggest. It occupied basically 4 6-foot folding tables. Its Lego dimensions, I believe, were like 4 gray base plates by I think 9.5 gray base plates. So it was a very large mock, and the Star Killer base mock is actually going to be even bigger than that. It's basically going to be 4 gray base plates by 12 gray base plates with a row of smaller 32 by 32 base plates kind of along the side of it. So it's going to be insane. I'm honestly still trying to figure out how the heck I'm going to make it happen, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. As for what Brick World is like, so Lego conventions in general, I feel, are just the most incredible thing ever for someone who's interested in Lego. We all are able to see videos of mocks online, and of course we probably have some in our own collection along with sets, but there is no other experience like going to a Lego convention and just being around people who are so passionate about Lego, people who are building things that you never would have thought to even consider to build, or people who are using techniques that you never would have considered implementing in some of your builds. So going to a Lego convention is unlike anything else. If you have the ability to go, I urge everyone to try and do so, because Lego conventions are just the highlight of my year every year pretty consistently, I think. So that is really the highest praise that I can give them. And Brick World specifically, I'm going to be there at Chicago, is one of the bigger Lego conventions, might be the biggest Lego convention in the US. So, I mean, it's just like all the things I kind of just explained, multiplied and amplified because of how big of a convention it is, because of how many people travel to get there. It is just a Lego experience unlike anything else. So, I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. Lego conventions are the best, and Brick World Chicago is definitely among the best of the Lego conventions. So yeah, go make it happen. Go to a Lego convention, guys. You definitely won't regret it. Next question comes from Santa Claus. He says, "Is that a giant Lego brick made out of Lego behind you?" Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. If you guys didn't know, I work at a Lego store, and basically, when you work for Lego for so long, they give you, I guess, like commemorative items. So I've been at the store really it'll be 6 years this year, but I got this last year when I hit my 5-year mark. So you can see, it says 5 years on there. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, it's basically a pencil holder. There's a hole there, and there's actually some brick-built drawers that you can use. It's kind of hard to get them to pull out, but let's see if I can do this. Maybe the bottom one. Nope, it's pretty stuck in there. Yeah, it's not the most functional thing, but there's like drawers that can actually pull out on the bottom, and that is my employee sig fig. So yeah, that's that. Next question comes from Judah Lasley. He says, "What's your favorite unnamed Lego Star Wars fig?" This is a pretty easy question for me. My favorite Star Wars figure in general is the Special Forces First Order TIE Pilot. So I mean, it's obviously unnamed. And yeah, that makes it pretty easy for me to say. Some of my other favorite figures that are unnamed, I love the Rebel A-Wing, or not the A-Wing pilot, the B-Wing pilot from the most recent B-Wing set, the Gray Squadron guy. I love that figure so much. I also love the Flame Trooper figure. That's definitely among my favorites. So yeah, those are 3 of my favorite unnamed Lego Star Wars figures. Next question comes from Henrique de Matos. He says, "Do you think Lego should go back to making small Star Wars vignette sets at a $10 price point, similarly to the classics like Final Duel 1, Jabba's Message, and Darth Vader Transformation?" So Henrique and I have talked about this pretty extensively. My answer still remains the same. I think that those sets were okay for their time. It seemed like Lego was really mostly concerned about just getting minifigs out there. And I guess if you look at it from that lens, like, it's a cheap way to get figs, so like it's a no-brainer. Like, sure, they could do that. I just think that with Lego's current design quality and their standards, them doing a set that's supposed to be like the Darth Vader transformation, for example, at $10 compared to the one we got that I think it was either 25 or 30 bucks, they're just not going to be able to make a good set that's detailed enough at that price point for what that scene's supposed to represent. I understand that, like, I mean, maybe it'd be cool to get a small vignette that's at a low price point, but Lego just doesn't really make sets like that now. Like, Lego, like it happens in some circumstances. Don't get me wrong. There's like polybags and whatnot, but I mean, in general, and especially for Star Wars, the baseline quality of sets has gone up so much since, you know, back in the day 20 years ago when they were doing those small sets. So I mean, I'm fine with what they're doing now. Like a vignette of that size will usually run like $25 or $30 more now, and I prefer that because you get more detailed in it. It looks like more of a premium model, and I feel it's more indicative of the quality and the standards of Lego design in 2019. So I can see like the appeal of wanting to get minifigs cheap, but I mean, at the end of the day, Lego is not a minifig company. The minifigs are important, don't get me wrong, I totally get that, but Lego is a build company, and they're going to continually try to put sets out there that inspire kids through new building techniques and do their best job at recreating whatever scene they're trying to reference. And I just don't, I find like the $10 vignette thing to be limited in that regard. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Final question is going to come from B Brick Studios. He says, would you like to see the NBA theme brought back again? Yeah, I would actually. I always thought that those were cool. I mean, the figures were kind of ugly looking, but the gimmick was kind of cool. The fact that they had the springs in their legs and you can make them shoot the ball. I don't really think that they would try to do that. I mean, who knows? Maybe they will try to do that if they brought it back again. But I think that, I don't know, like licenses like that were cool. Sports licenses specifically were a cool thing with Lego to kind of help them get more widespread appeal. And as someone who works at a Lego store, people are always coming in and asking for like sports themes. So NBA has that widespread appeal across the world. So yeah, I'd like to see it. It would mean a lot to me if they did that. I'd love to see the Rockets in minifig form. That would be pretty dope. But all in all, that's going to finish up the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to your questions answered. Like I always say, if you want to see your questions answered in one of these videos, put it in the comment section below. Make sure it is Lego Star Wars or Lego Stars related, and then check back next week to see if you make the cut. If you like what I do, make sure you go ahead and support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.